going to break down a few different elements regarding reactivations that I believe you're all going to walk away with a really good plan. So hopefully you've got your pen and paper handy, because we're going to break it down for you. Going to make it really, really practical and specific.
Hello and welcome to the Remarkable CEO Podcast, a show dedicated to chiropractors who want to transform their job into a business so that they can have a remarkable practice as part of a remarkable life, not instead of one. With your hosts, Dr. Pete Camiolo and Dr. Stephen Franson.
Welcome to another episode of the Remarkable CEO Podcast. I'm Dr. Pete Camiolo.
And I'm Dr. Stephen Franson.
And it is great to be together today. We are pumped up. We are getting excited. We have an immersion coming up here in a few weeks, both in North America and Australia. We are excited about it. And it's our attraction immersion. And I'll tell you something, Dr. Stephen, it's always a relevant conversation to talk about attracting new business and business into your practice. And today we're going to have a conversation about attraction from a slightly different angle. We're going to have a conversation today about one of the most important things you can do as a CEO and in your business, which is reactivation. I was thinking about when the Chicago Bulls were in their heyday, and I know other teams do this to this day, but they talk about, before the game they did, what time is it? They did that, and it's game time. So my opening for our podcast, really thinking about is, what time is it? And it's time to reactivate. It's reactivation time. That's what time it is. So as we kick off our episode here today, we are in September. If you're listening to this live, it's September. It's 2022, and we're going to break down a few different elements regarding reactivations that I believe you're all going to walk away with a really good plan. So hopefully you've got your pen and paper handy, because we're going to break it down for you. Going to make it really, really practical and specific. We're going to unpack how to have a remarkable reactivation type practice, creating campaigns and organization and structure here. Dr. Stephen, I couldn't be more thrilled and excited to be having this conversation with you than I am right now.
Yeah, Dr. Pete. So one of my favorite times of the year for many reasons. Most people know I'm a surfer. So living up in New Hampshire, in New England, in North America, the aloha state of New England, New Hampshire. This is the best time of the year. It's hurricane season, so very often we get swells out of the south. So water is still relatively warm. For those of you who know, I surf through the winter and regularly get in water that's stupidly cold. Gets down to below 30. Actually, seawater doesn't freeze until 28 degrees. The salt water, it can get down literally in the 30s, and we surf all through the winter. And it's worse than it sounds. So the September, October, November is just the best surf season. So we've got swell on the way, I know it, and the water's still relatively warm, sun's still out, and all the kids are back to school, so all those grums are out of the water. So fall is one of my favorite times of the year. And it's also football season coming in, right? So as you know, I'm a big football fan, and I've worn one of my favorite new t-shirts here. I've got my Tom Brady, the GOAT, number 12 t-shirt on today. And it's not just because we're right around the corner from football season, but we're also coming right into reactivation season, right? So, Tom Brady's pulled the ultimate reactivation on us a couple of times, hasn't he? And as I'm a reluctant Buccaneers fan now, and like most really sad New England fans, Patriots fans, we're hoping that at one point he pulls a fast one and reactivates and maybe retires truly as a Patriot. But yeah, Dr. Pete, fall is the best time of the year to do reactivations. In fact, it's one of two top times of the year to top 2 months of the year to reactivate previously active patients is January and September, right? So here we are, we're in the throes of, as you're listening to this, September, October is one of the best times of the year to run your reactivation campaigns. So we're going to unpack that today. Keep that front of mind for you. Let's capitalize on this time of the year as people are getting back to school and they're getting back on track. It's time for them to get back in your schedule book and back in your office and back on the table. I'm psyched to unpack reactivation here today.
Love it, Dr. Steven. So pumped to be in this. I love this time of year as well for this very reason. And so let's jump in. So what I want to start with here as we begin this conversation is to recognize that, number one, as a CEO, it's your responsibility to recognize and to bring to the consciousness of the team that there are groups, there are populations of people that we need to be staying aware of. That, when you assess your business quarterly, monthly, annually, all the different ways and times where you are assessing your company. And I think monthly, because I think of the monthly, marketing meeting that you probably are doing. I think quarterly because I think of your quarterly reviews. I think of annually because I think of the annual meetings. But there's a consciousness and awareness that we need to have to the populations of people and your database specifically, or your list. And so, Dr. Steve, we talked about this before our episode. Obviously, today we were discussing this. And we talked about really as a chiropractor, there's three types of people or categories or segments of people that you need to be aware of, Dr. Steven. Number one is your active patients. Hopefully you are acutely aware of who these people are. You know exactly where they're at in their journey. You know how many people are currently actively in initial intensive care, how many people are currently active in corrective care, how many people are currently active in wellness care, and how many people are currently active in maintenance care. Hopefully you have an acute awareness and visibility of exactly who these people are and where they are in their journey. The second list or group or segment of people is what we call previously active patients. So these are people who have started care, were under care, historically have a history with you as a patient, but have stopped care for whatever reason. So they have discontinued care, okay? So those are previously active patients. And that is a group of people which, again, hopefully you are acutely aware of who all of those people are, who once trusted you, who once walked the road with you hand in hand. And then there's a third group of people, which is a segment of people that you need to be aware of, and that is leads. And leads are people who have expressed a level of interest in your business, and we can talk about what that would look like, but they haven't purchased yet. They haven't actually become a patient in your practice yet. So there's three groups of people as CEOs that we need to be aware of, and today we're going to be talking about how do you build and nurture and grow your business through working with each one of those segments, and specifically through reactivation campaigns.
Yeah, this is an awesome CEO marketing conversation because ultimately what we know is the money's in the list, right? So as we're talking about, the business, we know we're in the business of saving lives, and when business is good, everybody wins. Are you marketing like it, right? So do you recognize that there is a fiduciary responsibility to your business, right? And a purpose-driven responsibility to the mission of helping people in your community, right? So are you stewarding that well, right? So do you have a database of all of the contacts that have come into your ecosystem, right? So that segmentation that you're referring to there, Dr. Pete, those three groups of people, that's at a very minimum, that's how you should be segmenting your database or your list, right? Your list of people. So you've got active patients, you've got previously active patients, and you have leads. And each of these need to be defined, and everybody on your team needs to understand what they mean. When you say active patients, well, what does that mean, right? So, from a high level in the Remarkable practice, we teach an active patient is somebody who is actively following the doctor's recommendations for care, period. Okay? So ask yourself, do I have a list where people are demarcated as active patients? In other words, they are actively following the doctor's recommendations for care. Okay? That's your active patient base. You may have a way to discern that and decipher that. It's very simple. Just do a study of who has been in the office in the last 30 days, for example. That's my number, 30 days. Your number might be different, right? So just start with that list and then take them through the other criteria that would make somebody inactive. Number one, somebody who says, I quit. Number two, somebody who has moved or died. Number three, somebody who has missed 3 appointments in a row and they become inactive because they're no longer following the doctor's recommendations for care. Number four, they have not been in the office for X number of days, 30 days. Or number five, you've fired them as a patient, right? So you've got active patients and then you've got inactive patients, right? So, or previously active patients. So there's our second list. Our second list is previously active patients, people who at one point were active and became inactive. So I think there's too much attachment here, Dr. Pete, just as we work with, hundreds and hundreds of chiropractors. One thing, you start to see commonalities, right? So one thing that we have, as chiropractors is we're very empathetic. We're bleeding hearts. And man, we get attached to our patients and we hate to make people inactive, right? So it's like, no, they'll come back. No, they love us, man. We changed their life, man. It's just like, then they start telling success stories in the testimonial and they give us a 5-star review and they've been coming in for years. And it's like, no. The criteria is, are they actively following the doctor's recommendations for care? That's what an active patient is. So now we have previously active patients, right? So the third group of people is your leads. Leads are people who you captured their information, they showed interest by scheduling an appointment, but they never either came in or they just did not convert or start care, right? So those are our three segments: active patients, previously active patients, and leads. Today we're going to be talking about reactivation. So let's focus on that middle segment, right? The previously active patients, and let's reactivate them.
Yeah, this is great. And you said something earlier that I want to just speak to again as the CEOs are listening to this. One of the great responsibilities that you have and you're accountable to this is casting vision. So it's really important that you cast the vision for this, that you bring the value for why this is important. Okay. So because it could feel like a lot of work. Like, oh, Dr. Pete, we're so busy already. We've got all the things going on. And you have another thing you want to add to our plate. You want us to do more things, right? So first things first. This is a culture, right? This is a part of your vision. This is something that you have to value as a CEO, that we value the people who were active previously here. That's a really important thing. I have to slow down to just talk about this because otherwise it can feel like, oh, this is out of left field. Dr. Pete, oh my gosh, he always has another idea. He's got something new he wants us to do, right? So if that's you and I'm speaking to you and you're like me or like maybe Dr. Steven and we have all these bright ideas and we love bringing to our team, we're so excited. And then they hear it, they're like, oh my gosh, this is overwhelming. Number one is let's do a better job of actually casting a vision and really the culture that we need to embrace moving forward. If you haven't been doing this, is we are going to make a decision here as an organization that we are going to do reactivation campaigns. We are going to bake that into our culture moving forward as an organization. I just need to start there, Dr. Steven, because we can throw out a strategy here and you guys are like, because if you're like us, we're like, all right, Monday, we're going in, I'm telling my team we're doing reactivation campaign. And we're not going to say don't do it, but I'm going to say use your discernment hat, CEOs. Be wise about this because it is a big lift. It is something that's going to require focus, energy for your team. You have to have definition, like Dr. Steven just said, around all these things. You really should do some due diligence, some homework before you just do a campaign. We are advocates for this, huge advocates, and hopefully you'll become one if you aren't already. And if you are, hopefully you're going to do a campaign here in September. But this is something as a CEO that you need to be able to recruit your team. Otherwise, it's going to be another thing you throw on your back and you're just going to say, all right, I'll do it. I'll take this on. And don't put on the owner-operator bag because you're like, well, reactivation campaign, that's an owner-operator thing, right? I'm going to revert back from CEO to owner-operator to make this happen. I'm going to encourage you to recruit your team and be mindful and thoughtful about this. And hopefully you can do a reactivation campaign here in September. But let me say this. If it's going to stress your team out and derail the other things you've already prioritized, then let's build it over the next 3 to 4 months and launch one in January. Okay, so you heard Dr. Steven say his favorite times, and we found the best times to do these are in September and January. So Dr. Steven, I just felt like I needed to say that.
Oh, it's great. It's very healthy,
it's really
Dr. Pete. They're very healthy, especially coming off of our capacity tachometer conversation with overwhelming the team. So, I love that idea and getting that in place as this is not a new idea, guys. This is one of the best old ideas, right? So this is a fundamental, right? This is pop flies and ground balls. This is blocking and tackling, chiropractic marketing 101, right? So this would fall under the category of internal marketing, right? So internal, external, and digital marketing. Remember, the purpose of marketing is lead generation, right? These are leads that you already have generated. So this is just pursuing those leads and reactivating them. So Dr. Pete, I want to say something. I'm going to share something. And the heart of this is, of course, it's purpose driven. It's mission driven, right? So this is just not a business conversation. This is purpose driven. And in the spirit of that stewardship, at one point, these people were active. And they were active because they felt like they could know, like, and trust us, right? So, and they started care and they engaged with us, right? And at some point in time, they discontinued care, okay? And what the reality is that for all of us, we can fall off even the most important things in our lives,
Yes.
right? You see it every day. So, like, just recognize it's like because we are so on purpose and we love our people. At the same time, we internalize every time somebody goes inactive and we feel like rejected, and we make it about us and not about the mission. So I'm just going to invite you right now in a big warm embrace, like, to just say, let that go. Okay. So the reality is people fall off of the most important things in their lives. People fall off they stop going to the gym. People stop going to church. We have divorce. We have people dropping out of school, right? So there's just like friendships just drift apart. It's like the most important things that they value in their life, their saving habits, right? So just think about it, you name it. People move away from the things that they know are important and great in their life, and they still fall away from them. So just kind of let go of the fact that these people have left, and it's not a rejection of you, okay? But rather there was something else that just created a priority in their life. There was something that happened that disrupted their flow, what have you. This was something that I carried very heavily on my heart. This was hard for me. So I'm sharing this from a really personal place. I learned early on that, that I was disappointed when people didn't start care, but I hated when they discontinued. I hated it. And I used to tell myself stories like, oh, when we get bigger and we get busier and we get more successful, it's not going to hurt as much. I was so wrong. That never went away. That feeling never went away. And so ultimately, we carry this around in our heart. Like this becomes like barnacles, on the hull, right? So this will slow you down and you'll start second guessing and you won't be as bold and you'll be selfish in your approach to reactivation, which is not on purpose, right? So you just have to just make it not about you, but about them. And it's not about them rejecting you or your recommendations, but they simply have been derailed, and it's about getting them back on the rails. And, for me, I heard Coach CJ Mertz, who was such a big influence on me in early on in my career and to this day. He said something once that just really took those rocks out of my backpack. And he said from the stage, 95% of the people that leave you love you. 95% of the people that leave you love you. And I needed to hear that. And the reality is, Dr. Pete, is 95% of the people that leave us love us, and they feel like they've disappointed us, and it's hard for them to come back to us. Okay, so switch your perspective on this, and don't feel like they've rejected you, okay? Focus on how can you make it easier for them to come back to your practice, to come back to chiropractic. Our job as a CEO is to create a business that's hard to leave and easy to come back to.
I love this conversation, Dr. Stephen. I mean, it's so cool because we didn't even plan to go here, but this is really at the root of this. I think we're actually hitting on something really important. And I know as you were talking, man, I was like raising my hands, thumbs up. I'm like, oh my gosh, like that's exactly how we feel because you care so much. But I think what you just talked about was so, so, so important. And this goes back to heart, head, hands, feet. So heart, you're talking about the heart. Right? We could deploy a strategy, but if it's rooted in, like you said, rejection, and it's coming out of a place of selfishness, the energy behind it doesn't produce the fruit that you want in your life or in your business. And so simply shifting that perspective, what you just shared, I know you liberated probably 73% of the people listening to this podcast right now. So thank you for sharing that, because I share that same I share that. And I know that people are nodding and saying, that's me. So right there, this is worth the price of admission for this free podcast right there. Just take that and take that into take that back and say, you know what? I'm going to shift my perspective and I'm going to change the energy behind this. I'm going to make this mission about purpose and mission. It's awesome that we take things personally, but it's more important that we have the proper perspective because we're called to lead. And as a leader in this moment, it's about doing things that are right. And like Dr. Stephen, you said, these are people that once, trusted you, and they're probably feeling more disappointed about it than you. And there's this awkwardness. So break that tension, and just your reactivation campaign should make somebody feel like you just came up behind them and gave them a big hug. And you're like, who is that? And you're like, oh my gosh, where have you been? It's like, man, so good to see you again. You know when you run into somebody, it's like, my gosh, I was just talking about you like last week or whatever. And it's just that moment. Envision that that's what happens when your email hits their inbox or your text message lands on their phone. They just are like, got this big bear hug from behind. You're like, who is that? It's like, oh my gosh, where have you been? Like, where have you been, man? I've been, and it's one of those, just envision the energy behind that and be like, that's how you want it to feel, right? Remember, it's how you make people feel when they receive that text, email, phone call, whatever that thing might be. And that's what we train on with our team. That's what we train on with ourselves. So as we go through these, and we're going to go into the different types of campaigns right now, but that feeling that you have is what feeling you transfer through whatever the strategy that you deploy is. And that's why, Dr. Stephen, the perspective, yours and your team's, is vital.
Huge. All right, so there's the heart. Let's talk about the head. Like, what does this look like? So for my note takers, there's really two categories, two types of reactivation. One would just be considered a evergreen campaign that happens every single month, which we refer to as an anchor campaign. An anchor campaign it's highly automated, it's automatic, you don't have to think about it, it's in play, it's in place, it's going to happen, right? So the first is the birthdays, right? So you should have a birthday message that goes out to each of those three segments of your list, and the three messages. There's a birthday message that goes out to your active patients, and usually recognition and celebration message, right? There's a reactivation message that goes out on the birthday for our previously active patients, which would really be awkward if you sent that that same message to your leads who never started with you, right? So everybody sees there's a leads message as well. So now you're going out, you're sending out birthday cards, so to speak, birthday messages, one for active, one for previously active patients, and one for leads. So the previously active patients on their birthdays every year hear from you, and there's a reactivation message associated with that. Okay, so the second type, which is what we're really drilling down on today because of the seasonality of it, is there's January and September. Let's call it those are the months as reactivation months, right? So January/February, we know that those are the biggest months of the year for everybody getting back to the gym, for example. Why? Because of New Year's resolutions, right? So this is about people getting their acts together, right? So you want to be all over that when it comes to helping people get their health back and get back in the office, right? So the second time of the year is the September/October back to school, right? So this is the time when people are coming off of their vacations. Everybody knows summer vacations go, completely, summer schedules go completely sideways with summer vacations, kids being out of school, and just generally people just going off and going on vacation, right? So this tends to be classically the time of the year when everybody gets back onto the schedule book. They start mapping out their appointments again. They get the kids now have a school schedule, so they have to shift the family adjustment schedule, or maybe they have to come in before work now, or, so there's a big shift and there's a dynamic energy around scheduling and mapping out your people. This is the time when people are getting back on track. They're coming off the beach and they're getting back in the gym. They're coming away from the lake and off the boat, right? So now they're back in the gym. They're back to school. It's time to get back to the office and try to get back on the table, right? So this is where we want to have a relevant message that lands right in front of them, and we are encouraging them as they're in this energetic mode, focus about, doing the most important things in their life. And those are the things that are going to land on their schedule, land on their calendar. We want to make sure that their chiropractic care is one of those.
Yeah. So Dr. Stephen, I know that we could do, we could go for probably hours on this. So I do want to, wrap with some just very practice. And we were talking about this, which is how important it is to we talked about the value and the quality of the list, which would actually be determined by a few things, which is number one, how many people are on your list. So the actual size of the list, that does matter. So how many people are your actives, inactives, and leads, right? So we're just talking about previously actives right now. So how many people are on that list? That actually matters. It's a really important KPI. It's a really important metric. We're not necessarily looking to grow it intentionally, but we know it will grow because of churn. So
it's a natural consequence. Yeah.
It's a natural consequence. So track it, it will grow, and you want to make sure you're measuring it. Number two is the temperature of the list. And you talked about those anchor campaigns, which actually one of the values of the anchor campaign is front of mind. You have a cadence where you keep at least some level of the warming, burners. It's on warm, it's warming, it's going. Hey, we've got that going because we have at least one time per year, we've got an anchor campaign. So you've got that. But then it's also what other types of communications are we putting out there? Monthly, quarterly, annually, like what are you doing with those? Are you emailing these people? Is there texting that's going on throughout the year, inviting them to different, let's say, body signals program workshops you've got going on, maybe patient appreciation events, things that you've got going on like throughout the year? Like what are you doing to warm them up? Are you writing blogs? Are you sending that out? Are you going live? And are you, tagging these people? Like what are you doing to keep the temperature? So that's really important. So you've got the size and the temperature, which is determined a lot by, your activity and how intentional you are about recognizing there are these people that are out there. And I want to make sure I'm speaking also to them. And then, there's other details that we look at as far as breaking it down, like knowing, the age of the person or what stage of life they're in, maybe their condition, what their condition was specifically when they came in, what their real struggle was, and organizing the list. So one of the things that we talked about, Dr. Stephen, is just your ability to communicate well will determine the value of the list. That the more detailed that you are with knowing your people, which is why we say even for active patients, it's not enough to just know people's names. We need to know their story. It's their story that helps us organize and segment them correctly so that later on we can re-engage with them and we can make sure we're giving good reactivations, just like we give good feedback where it's timely, it's relevant, it's personalized. It really speaks to that person. So actually, I'd love to just maybe to land on this as we wrap here today, because I really think that as we deploy some of these different strategies and we get this going, we want to make sure that we are effective in this.
Yeah, no, I agree fully. And the quality of that list is essentially a measurement of the sophistication of the list, right? So, or vice versa. The more sophisticated the list, the more data you have around it, the higher the quality, right? So you're able to communicate more specifically. And like you said, it's relevant what you're sending to them. So you feel like you're adding value whenever you send them something. You're talking to me. Remember the 3 concentric rings of marketing. Yes, that's me. Yes, that's the thing I'm trying to get rid of or trying to achieve or accomplish. And now is the time I have to take action, right? So this holds true in our reactivation campaigns. Imagine being able to send out segmented reactivation campaigns. And I know this may start blowing some people's minds as far as how complex this can get. But the more complex this is, the more targeted, more specific, very often the more productive it is, right? Because you're actually in relevance, right? So you're speaking into their listening. If you have your previously active patients fill out forms when they're entering in as an active patient, like in your intake form, and this is going into your CRM, your customer or client relationship management software, or your EHR, you've got a client profile and a record. Now it's like who they are, male or female, what age they are, do they have kids, how local are they, what are their chief complaints? Here's a sciatica case, low back, headaches, migraines, or this person moved it into wellness. So you have this information, so now you can do really targeted nurture campaigns. And that's the last thing I want to say on this, Dr. Pete, is you want to have nurture campaigns that warm that relationship back up before you just do a call to action, right? So you want to have a nurture campaign is I'm going to do a series of emails specific to that person, and the more specific and personalized, the better, right? So you're giving them value, and then you ask them to take an action, right? So Gary Vaynerchuk famously said, give, ask in his book, Crushing It, right? So that's what a good campaign looks like. You're giving relevant value, then you're giving relevant value. You're reminding them of who you are, what you do, why you do it, and how much they love you and your services. Give them more value, build up that know, like, and trust again, and then do a call to action. Don't just throw one email at them that says, hey, it's time to get back on the table. Let's start adjusting you again, right? That's not going to land. It's going to be super cold, and you might see, 1 out of 100. That'd be a win if you got 1% return on that. Imagine taking that to 10 or 15% return on that. So you have to have your team ready. You got to make sure that team knows we are doing these campaigns, they are going out, and then help your team out with some SOP, right? So standard operating procedures. You've got to let them know, this is what we're doing, this is how we're doing it. So expect that you're going to get phone calls and emails and people walking in here, and they're going to be here to be reactivated. Here's what the messages are for the 3 segments of populations. Here's what we're telling them. This is what they're expecting walking in here. We shaped their expectations of this experience. Set up your standard operating procedures operationally in the practice where it's like, here's what we do with this person. And you'll have categorically people that have been, missing in actions. We call them MIAs, right? They've been inactive or missing in action for less than 30 days, right? That's an MIA. What do we do with somebody who's less than 30 days? You might do something like, hey, we're going to do a biostructural exam, and then I'm going to do a table side come to Jesus moment. We're going to woodshed them and get them back on their commitment and back on the schedule book. Or maybe it's they've been gone for 30 days to 6 months, somewhere in that window. That second category is what we call a previously active patient, right? So if it's 1 month to 6 months they've been out, then you would do a re-examination and probably like a 15-minute private consultation to really get them back on track and recommitted. And if it's been more than 6 months, that's the third category, start them over as a new patient, right? So Dr. Pete, you got to tee your team up to make sure that they feel ready and prepared. We have an operational procedure that we're going to follow so that everybody is in lockstep and doing the same thing. At the end of the day, gang, as CEOs, we have to recognize there's an entire populace, an entire community of people around us. We can't have marketing conversations without recognizing, marketing is about lead generation, and the best leads in your practice were people who used to be in your practice. We've just got to make it easy for them to come back to your practice.
Please stick around for more business insights from this week's bonus interview with our remarkable success partner, dedicated to helping you more successfully help more people. Enjoy. All right, remarkable CEOs and all of you amazing people. I am in the studio today with my good friend and colleague and one of our remarkable success partners, platinum success partners, Dr. Roger Sahoury with SprintSet, energizing weight loss systems. And Dr. Roger, I am just so excited to be with you. I've had an opportunity to actually partner with you, speak at a few of your events, and I just see how you empower doctors. You do such a great job of equipping doctors. And in our CEO podcast here, we always talk about leverage and how important it is to use leverage. And I know that's something that you truly understand as a remarkable CEO yourself. And so I just love that I get to interview you today and that we're joining each other in studio. And I got some questions for you. And I think our listeners are excited to hear what you have to say about these things. So Dr. Roger, I'm going to throw the first question over to you. First of all, just going to ask you, is there anything else you want to say to introduce yourself to our awesome listeners here on the Remarkable CEO podcast?
Well, first of all, I love you. All right. And I love TRP and I love Stephen and everything that you all stand for. You are a disciple of the Lord like I am. So I want people to know that I'm a man of God. That's very important for me. And secondly, I am a husband to the most incredible wife, Christina. And I have 3 beautiful little girls that I just adore and am very present in their lives. And my entire team are, I call them purpose partners because they all have purpose, right? In order to make a bigger impact on this earth right here that God has chosen us to do. So, this is truly a mission to step into our greatness and do what the Lord wants for us here.
Awesome. I love that, man. Well, it's great to be a purpose partner with you. I feel like we also have that type of a connection, and
we do.
And I know that as a success partner, it is a purpose partner. It's we're here to help each other help more people, right? We talk about what's a win-win-win. It's everybody wins, right? And so Can you talk a little bit about, specifically, I know we're here to talk about your organization, SprintSet, and I would love for you to just talk about specifically, we say every business exists to solve a problem, right? That's what we talk about. We talk about that all the time. So let's talk about that. What's the specific problem that your business solves for the doctor and for their community?
All right. Well, SprintSet was created for the busy doctor by the busy doctor, right? So being a doctor of chiropractic and being in this wellness space for nearly 20 years now, one thing that I know is that we have life flow, which is what we focus on as chiropractors, right? Allowing God's life, intelligence, and wisdom to begin to flow through them. And we need to keep focusing on the main thing, right? Turning on that power, right? As chiropractors, that's what we focus on. Now, we also know that there is a need to helping people with lifestyle components. And I've never seen an adjustment that knocked off 20 pounds off of an individual, okay? And people, they leave our spaces and then they get into regular life, as we know, right? And they get into these habits and these choices. So what I said is, hey, listen, how are we going to solve this problem? Because the truth is that, back when I was in a severe motorcycle accident that nearly took my life, and, I became suicidal, so to say, just giving you a short version of it, because of everything that I went through, and chiropractic saved my life. At that point in time, from also being on all those medications that I was on, I gained a ton of weight. So going from being extremely fit to being extremely overweight, and now I had a serious hormonal challenge. No matter how much I exercised, no matter what I did, the weight just wouldn't come off. And I developed a lot of insulin resistance, and my body was just so toxic, and a lot of cellular inflammation and so on. And I had to begin to really understand, how am I going to get my body healthy? And I went into the space of diving into that, more into the functional medicine space before it was ever even called functional medicine, right? And I really absorbed all of that. And then throughout the entire time, as I got the weight off of me and I was able to get my body running healthier, I started to get involved in different types of systems that were out there. And I still saw that there was a big gap. There were still holes in the system, and it just made it way too heavy of a lift. So when creating SprintSet, as I said, it was created for the busy doctor by the busy doctor. We want the chiropractor to focus on the main thing. I had to decide that, hey, how are we going to create a system that is going to tackle the problem of this weight loss, of weight loss, for example, of healing the gut, of getting rid of this cellular inflammation, of detoxifying people's bodies, of helping people eliminate their brain fog, helping people enhance their mood, helping people's sleep patterns become better, helping people become more energized without taking a lot of time from the doctor himself. So we had to leverage systems, we had to leverage people, and we had to leverage technology. So I had to create my own technology, which I did, which I can show you in a second. People, I developed a team of coaches that begin to coach the patients and the participants. We call them sprint setters, throughout a process for the doctor. So the doctors don't have to sit there and communicating with these people on a regular basis, or they don't have to worry about, hey, I hired this employee, but now that employee left. That employee had some challenges. So now we have a big problem here.
Yeah.
As we know, as chiros, right? You lose a CA. Oh, now I got to go hire another one. And that takes some time. You got to run a PDP profile. You got to understand who they are. You got to do cognitive testing. You got to test them out in the office, so on. No, with us, we plug them right in, right? So if a coach falls out, guess what? We have another coach that falls right in. Steps right into that space, right? Okay, great. So we're doing all that heavy lifting. What else with the people? Well, now we're developing the team to do sales for the doctors as well. So the doctor doesn't even have to do the sales inside of their own business, because we're actually doing it for them virtually, right? And so now we've talked about systems, we've talked about people, and then we have a technology that we dumped in so much money into that is able to track every single conversation that occurs, that is able to measure and take a look at where's people's energy levels, where their moods, where's their weight. And we have a whole thread, and we have commitments and agreements everything is just so clear. So we have clear expectations, clear agreements, and the results are mind-blowing. And our system and our methodology that we've discovered was where that's what we call sprints and sets. When they're on a sprint and they're eating real foods, okay? They're eating real foods, right? So if somebody likes to eat meat, guess what? Well, we have proteins. We have all different types of proteins, right? Chickens, fishes, all different types of seafoods, right? Gamey meat from, venisons, the bison. So everything that you can think of, right, as far as proteins are there. So people get to eat real proteins. They're not having prepackaged foods, right? They're having vegetables, they're having good fats, they're having fruits, they're having all the things that as doctors, we would want our people to know, but they need a system in order to follow.
Yes.
And people, if you don't give them direction and you don't give them guidance, Pete, we both know, right? What happens? They run into a big problem. So SprintSet's based on 2 Nobel Prize winning technologies, right? And one of them is, hey, how are we going to work on getting people into state of autophagy, right? Clean out the junk out of their cells, get rid of the cellular inflammation, allow hormones, receptors to communicate, right? So that we can break the insulin resistance, we can get, the emotions under control, because when hormones are off, emotions are all over the place, their sleep's affected, so on. So we work on that. And then we have another Nobel Prize winning technology, which is based on behavior. So our coaches are trained on nudging people back on track if they fall off, right? And in our sprints, they're losing a lot of weight. In our sets, they're resetting their weight set point, their metabolism, hormones are starting to go into a state of harmony. Life is good, right? So Pete, if I can just share something with you here, that's okay.
Yeah. So as you're preparing that, I'm just thinking about our audience as they're listening. I mean, obviously you can hear, number one, Dr. Rogers' passion, but you can also hear his business acumen. He's really understands the elements of business and scalability, and knowing Dr. Roger as a actual remarkable CEO, chiropractor who works in our program, and you've been working with the remarkable practice for many years now, and then also knowing that you're working with many providers in our network and outside of our network as well, that you're bringing these elements directly in. So you're talking to the CEO right now. And I think you brought up a really good point, which is the classic owner operator, they look at this as more work, but you're speaking to them and saying, no, as a CEO, this is actually going to be less work for you. We've actually built it to be something that's turnkey in your practice. You can bolt this onto whatever type of practice model you have as far as chiropractically, even if you have even if you're doing other businesses within, if you have other products and services that you're providing, you could add in SprintSet specifically. So Doc, we talk in terms of attraction, conversion, retention, team, and we think in those terms. So I also want you to share, how are you helping our doctors with those domains, the domains of attraction, conversion, retention? I'd love for you to just talk about that as you share this. I know you're going to share your screen. So if you're watching this on YouTube, you're going to see this. If you're just listening to this in the podcast, you might not see this, but you can head over to our YouTube channel, check us out on our Facebook or Instagram. You can see this. But Dr. Roger, I know you're going to share your screen so we can see some things as well.
Yeah. So as far as attraction, we help with the nurturing education component. So we come on and we become your educational system for your actual patients, right? So as long as they opted in, we do that for you. We help in that aspect. Now we're making more people aware of, listen, they're looking for weight loss. They're looking to clean out their body. They're looking for these things, right? So now what happens is, here we go and we put them on a system. Who do they start talking to? Everybody that they hang out with, all their friends, all their family members, because it's so simple, because people now recognize, oh my God, what's going on here with you? It looks like, wow, you're looking great. Your skin looks better. Wow, you look younger. And then all of a sudden they're so excited. They're energetic. Oh, wow, I feel so great in this clothes. Oh, was able to go, oh, I'm doing this thing. It's called SprintSet. Really, where is it? Where is it? Oh, it's right here. My doctor offers it. Oh my God, I want to learn more about it. What happens now? They come in, they do SprintSet, and then from there, we move those people into what? A chiropractic examination, because all of our coaches love chiropractic. They all have been under all are under chiropractic care right now. Okay. So it's an easy nudge for us to do that. So it's awesome, right? Yeah. So that's one piece of the attraction. The other piece of attraction is that we will work hand in hand, and we will actually create all the content for any marketing that has to happen. We'll create all the content for you, right? For any marketing that needs to happen, right? So if there's any ad spend that has to be done for any external, yeah, you'll be responsible for that. But we'll create all the content to help you with every aspect of that being, so make it really, really simple. That's on the attraction. Retention, well, when you got people doing the system and they're doing great and they lose weight, what happens? It gets them more excited, because what happens is there's a quadrant, I call it, Pete, right? And people, when you take a look at this quadrant, is it important to them? Is it not important to them, right? Are they satisfied or are they not satisfied? So now we take a look at that and we go, okay, what's important to our patients at this moment? So yes, we take care of them chiropractically, but on the other component, is it important for them to want to lose weight, but it's not satisfied yet? So now we move them into the component of, they go through the program, it's important, and then they get to a point where now it's satisfied. Now what happens is they start creating raving fans. And then we move them into lifetime support. And when they get into lifetime support, guess what? We've just created a blue ocean, right? So if you understand what a blue ocean and a red ocean just means that the space is, just completely filled up, right? Blue ocean is where we found that blue ocean. We support them for a lifetime at no additional charge for a lifetime now. So now we're working on creating raving fans for you for a lifetime and supporting people for a lifetime. Key thing, because they want to lose this, Pete. They want to lose this, right? Yeah. They want to lose this fat right here where all the toxins are. And they want, Pete, they want to feel cool, man. They want to feel cool like these glasses, brother, right?
Come on.
And as you see, I got these headphones on, right? It's like a game.
So we've got 2 minutes. We've got 2 minutes left here, Doc. And one more question for you. And that's, we talk in terms of measuring ROI, in terms of, time, energy, focus, and money, that we have 4 limited resources. So talk to us a little about, what kind of, ROI, like what can a doctor, CEO, expect as far as, making an investment and like the SprintSet weight loss, energizing weight loss system, putting this into the practice? What kind of an ROI, like general things what are we looking at as far as this goes? Just because as a CEO listening to this right now, if I'm listening, I'm curious. You've piqued my curiosity. What are we looking at here, Doc? Again, like 2 minutes. Let's hear it.
Let's say that, we're doing the marketing for you. We're doing the sales for you. We're doing everything, right? And essentially you're just giving us your list of people that we're nurturing. You're going to make a $500 profit on a SprintSet, right? So that's on a full SprintSet right there. That's giving you an example of an ROI. So depending on how many people we start up, that's your profitability, right? So for essentially not doing very much, and then I'll do live webinars for you. I'll do all those things. We'll create more raving fans. We'll make you more aware, get people more aware of you in the community. I did want to share this though, Pete, really quick. Okay,
yep. Go ahead.
If that's okay with you.
Yes. And while you're doing that, I want you to share how people can get in touch with you. If there's a best way to do that, please let our awesome listeners know how to do that.
Sounds good. So yeah, just text message the word SprintSet, right? SprintSet, SprintSet, to the phone number 201-265-0555. That's 201-265-0555. Okay. Now, Peter, if you could see my screen right here, I'm just showing you a couple of people just with results right here. So this person's on Sprint 1, day 10 of the program. Their goal is to hit 165. They started off at 189. We're on day 10. They're down 9.5 pounds, 179.5. So I wanted to show somebody early in the game. Okay. Yeah. Then we take a look at this person. They're on day 66. This is a female with some serious hormonal challenges that she had, right? So her ultimate goal, like her ideal weight, what she wanted to be, she's very tall as well, was 155. And she's had multiple kids, and weight has been a challenge for her, right? She's over the moon right now. She started off at 190.7. Today she's at 160.6 pounds, down 30.1 pounds in 66 days. Okay. Wow. And let me show you this one, who's on day 121 of her system right here. She started off the program at 270. This was another one that had some serious hormonal issues with multiple kids. and has tried everything from keto to paleo to Whole30s to exercising, and nothing's ever been effective for her. So 270, she finished her full SprintSet from 270 to 232, went into SprintSet for life, continuing. She's on day 121. She's down to 181 pounds, lost 93.5 pounds in 121 days. She's over the moon. Her mood, energy, everything is exceptional. So due to time, that's, I just want to just at least get that component in there, Pete, because this is what people are losing right here. And you got a team that's there to back you up with SprintSet. And this new model shifted of everything I'm talking about right now, because the Lord came to me in the last few months as the model was different with just a done with you program. Now it's a done for you. So, I mean, this is a rebirthing. It's been a rebirthing of me. It's been a rebirthing of the system. It's been a rebirthing of life. And I'm just so grateful for the Lord for all of it. And Pete, I love you, brother. Like, I love you so much.
Awesome. Well, Dr. Roger Sahoury, thank you so much for joining me on the Remarkable CEO podcast. And if you could just say one more time that number where people can text you the word SprintSet to this number so that everybody has that. And then we'll wrap here.
Yep. Text SprintSet to 201-265-0555. Text the word SprintSet, SprintSet to 201-265-0555, or just go to sprintset.com and fill out the form for becoming a provider.
Awesome. Dr. Roger, again, appreciate you. Thank you for being a remarkable success partner and helping our doctors help more people, make a bigger impact in our world. And we are changing and saving lives. And I know you are. So thank you for your commitment to that and being a remarkable CEO and brother in arms. Love and appreciate you. And for all of you who are listening, we love and appreciate you too, and look forward to being with you again next week on our next episode. Until then, God bless and take care, everyone.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the Remarkable CEO podcast. Remember, what the world needs now is chiropractic, and what chiropractic needs now is more successful chiropractors. If you like this podcast, please subscribe, share with a friend, and leave us a review. And if you'd like to connect with us personally, direct message us on Facebook, LinkedIn, or Instagram. Now go and be remarkable.